You're watching the Gog Pod. Today on the podcast, we've been joined by Formartine United manager Paul Lawson, who's played for Celtic, Ross County and Motherwell before making the move to the Highlands in 2015. Now, before we get into today's podcast, Paul, news has just broke today that the Highland League has been curtailed after just 3 matches, allowing Brora Rangers to win the league for a second season running. What's your immediate reaction to that?
It's a difficult one to award a champion after 3 games is strange, but at the same time, we need somebody similar to the Lowland League. There needs to be a representative to go into the playoffs to comply with the pyramid system. So, Brora deserved the opportunity last season, which they never got. So, I think some could argue, it's their just reward. But other teams might say we never got the opportunity. We've won all our games this season as well. But I think this year's been strange for everything. Certainly, and obviously I know higher up the chain, games have been going ahead, but further down the level, it's been difficult for us, and it's a frustration. But it is what it is. We now know what's happening rather than all the uncertainty, so we can now sort of start preparing for next season.
Absolutely. So, of course, this news broke on the back of last week's penalties victory against Annan Athletic in the second round of the Cup, which got you to this fixture against Motherwell. Does this make Saturday's match against us even more important for you, knowing that if you lose, there's nothing left to play for this season?
I think so, but ultimately, getting a Premier League team to our ground is great and special. It's a shame the fans are going to miss out. I think from both sets, because if you're a Motherwell fan, it's a new away day sort of thing. Yeah. And from our fans' point of view, it's a Premier League team coming to our ground. So it's a big shame, but it's certainly a game. It's a great one for our players, one for us to look forward to, and a reward in a sense for this year's been difficult. We've probably done about 3 pre-seasons with all the stop-start and it's going on. So I think the boys deserve it. But at the same time, we need to make sure we don't get overawed by the occasion and we can put up a fight. And they say in the Cup, you never know what can happen.
Yeah, I know. And I'm feared because I know what Motherwell are like. Every set of supporters has the same sort of bugbear about their own team. Think, oh, that's banana skin potentially. But I'm quite interested from a media perspective. I'm wondering, what's it like for a normal league game in terms of media attention compared to such an event like this?
I think it's national press. The Highland League, it gets good coverage up here in the local papers and local radio stations, etc., which is great. But obviously a game like this, you're appealing to the West Coast and such like, because I think the way Brora performed last week against Hearts, I think people are maybe looking for another upset. So it is a bit more attention on it, don't get me wrong, but as a team and as players, we want to just try and concentrate on our own job and enjoy the week. Don't get me wrong, I said that to players the other day, enjoy the week. There might be more people from the media contacting you, wanting to speak to you, and it's part and parcel, and that's the sort of joy about a cup run. I think no matter what level, a cup run's great, and it brings different sort of attention on the club. So from our point of view, it's great. It's something to look forward to, and it's from all bases for everyone behind the scenes at the club who've worked hard to get things in place due to COVID and everything that's going on. So it's a reward for everyone.
Indeed. So now I'm going to ask you a few questions about yourself and your career, because that's what I tend to do in the podcast. So, of course, you started out in 2004 when you played for Celtic. Being from Aberdeen, how did the opportunity arise for you to make the move?
I was on, I think back then it was schoolboy forms. I think it's all changed now because of the academy system, etc. But I signed a schoolboy form when I was 14. And then at 16, I moved down to Glasgow and was sort of playing the youth teams, reserve teams for a few years. And then I think my debut was 2005. Eventually made it through the first team. Didn't last very long. Managed a couple of appearances, but no, I mean, it was great. Loved my time there. Played alongside some unbelievable players. You know, made some good friends, and no, it was a great time. And I think, speak to any player, I think they'll say their youth team days and stuff was some of the best, because there's no pressure on you. You're just enjoying it, and even the days you used to moan about doing the jobs, cleaning the boots, cleaning the showers, etc. You moan about it at the time, but actually when you look back, you what a laugh you used to have. And so, you know, look back with fond memories. But obviously, like everyone, the dream would have been to be a first team regular there, but it wasn't to happen. And you know, I moved on and tried to carve a career out for myself.
So whose boots did you clean?
It was different at Celtic. We kind of had groups that, if you were on the boots, you cleaned everyone's rather than have a specific player. You would either do the kit, do the boots, or do the sort of equipment. And so you would do 2-3 weeks stints at each job. So you'd be on the boots for a couple of weeks, and then you would get rotated round. So, and there wasn't a player in particular. I just had to make sure everyone's was spotless. And it was back in the day where it was leather boots, and I make myself sound old, but I think there was very few coloured boots at the time, so it was getting the old polishing out and making sure the boots were shining.
So of course you captained the reserves and made regular appearances for the under-21s at international level. What was the most valuable lesson you learned at that time?
It's probably not till you look back now. I think you're getting told things by sports scientists and certain people, which that was new to the game at that time, and I maybe didn't listen as much as I probably should have, because now you see it's such a huge part of the game. And at that time I felt maybe you could get by on ability alone, and you know, you look back now and think, you know, I could have maybe worked slightly harder at certain things. But then on the flip side of that, I also know how hard it is to break into the Celtic first team, and even harder to stay there, because plenty of boys have done what I did and played a couple of games. I think the hardest thing is to stay there and, you know, cement your place in the team, and that's hard. But I think, I can't have complaints. I did love my time there, don't get me wrong. It was a great experience, but there's, you know, certain things I maybe would have done slightly differently.
Of course, did you play against any up and coming stars at all? Any nowadays household names when you played at Celtic?
Do you know what? I must admit, people that can ask me who was a sort of best player you played against, and there's been loads of players that you kind of look at and say, oh, he's on and done well, but the one that stood out for me that I got an absolute roasting from was Nico Kranjčar. Played against him it was with the unders at Scotland, and we played Croatia in a match, and you know, is that way flicking the ball over my head, nutmegs, and doing all that stuff that and that's the, you know, obviously you come off having bad games, everyone does it, and you've had that game where you go, oh, so and so played well, but that was the one time I came off the park and thought, you know, I had an absolute roast in that game. So he went on to a decent career, I would say. And like I say, you know, playing against, you know, boys that played with Scotland now and in the past against all these guys, and all great players. But yeah, he was certainly the one that I came off the park thinking, wow, I've been taught a lesson there.
Aye, so I mean, after you left Celtic, you then signed for Ross County and spent 6 years there, which saw you win the second division, the Challenge Cup, and the 2011 to 2012 first division, which saw Ross County go on that fantastic run, which lasted well into your first Premiership season. Do you have any great stories to tell from your time at Ross County?
I think, well, there's probably a lot. It depends what avenue you work with down, whether it's the successes or it's a difficult one. I think initially my plan was to go up there for a year because they'd just been relegated to the second division at the time. So my plan was to go up there for a year, get regular football and move on. And then 6 years later, I was still there. So I don't know whether it was I was doing something right or they were doing something right, that we just, I just seemed to enjoy it. I loved my time there. The group of lads we had, there was probably a core of about 8, 9 players that we had for like sort of 4 or 5 years. So we were all pals and we do everything together. As people say, when you sign for a Ross County or Cal, it's slightly different because everyone from the West Coast or whatever, if they move up there, families tend to stay down south and the boys will just be up there. They'll commute up and down a couple of times a week. And so when you're up there, you've kind of only got each other to lean on. So, we do lots of things together, which was great. There was one season, I think it was the season we won the league actually, there was 6 or 7 of us all chipped in about £50 and we bought this banger of a car, 7-seater thing. And literally it was horrendous, but we done it, one, for a laugh, and two, it was cheap to run, so it got us to and from training, and really? It was, we had good times there. And let's say that there was a group of lads that I still keep in touch with now, and we've got had a great relationship. But I think that showed on the park with the success that we had.
Absolutely, and of course, across that time that you played at Ross County, you got one over your old team at Hampden Park against Celtic.
Yeah, do you know what? Looking at that, I'm not trying to use that this weekend, but it's to try and say to the boys, anything can happen. I think now with Ross County kind of been more regulars in the Premier League now. I know they got relegated the other year, but got themselves back, and they're more established now. But at that time, we're relatively unknown in a sense. We were, so that was a big cup shock, and it was a great time for the club. So I'm trying to use that this weekend. Say, things are possible. You just never know.
Absolutely.
Yes, don't get me wrong. At the time, it maybe wasn't the strongest Celtic team that's ever been, or they were going through a tough time. They just think Tony Mowbray just left and Neil Lennon was temporary charged. So there was a lot going on at the club, but you can't take anything away from us on that day. And it just shows you what can happen in football.
It certainly was a great day. I mean, I support whoever plays the Old Firm, unless it's a result that goes against Motherwell. So right now I'm just it's just squeaky bum time every time Motherwell play. But it's like any time Rangers and Celtic play in the cup, you're wanting them to get knocked out because then you've got hopefully a better chance of progressing yourselves. But when I got to that semi-final, I was wanting a Wraith Rovers versus Ross County final at Hampden. That was going to be, that would have been a perfect cup final. But
I think that on the everyone will talk about, because we didn't perform in the final, we didn't turn up at all, and people say, "Oh, was your cup final against Celtic?" Perhaps, but ultimately we let ourselves down on the day. But done United, full credit to United. They played well and deserved the win. But I think, the romantic would say it would have been nice, because then it's it would have been nice to have been a Ross County Wraith final, and would we have filled the stadium? Yeah, perhaps. I mean, we took about 20,000 down anyway for the final, so it shows. But no, it was good times, and lots of good memories.
I've always wondered, what is the Highland derby like? Because it's one of the, it's like I'm trying to tick off all the derbies I've done. I've done the Old Firm at Hampden. I've done Dundee derby at both grounds. I've done this or that. But what is the Highland derby like?
It's good. I think people from the outside will look at it and say it's the friendly derby in a sense, and I think in years gone by, when the two clubs were coming through the leagues, I'd hear stories. I don't know how true they are, but I'd hear stories that people would have season books at both clubs, and they would watch one while the other one was away from home, etc. But I think as the two started progressed and started to get more competitive in a sense, and become at one point both in the Premier League, and I think one year when we were both in the first division, they hadn't played a derby for a number of years because Cal had been in the Premier League for a while, and they were great because they were full houses and it was great. But I think they then become, when both are in the Premier League, you're playing them 4 times a season. And I guess it's like everyone. It's the same with the the Motherwell, Hamilton. You could argue, and it is what it is. That's the country we're in. We do play teams 4 times a season and stuff. And whether the novelty wears off with some, I don't know. But the attendance is sort of dropped a little bit the more the games came around. But no, they were great to play in. And like any derby, it's the bragging rights, isn't it? And
yes. Absolutely.
I was, I didn't play in an old firm, but being in and around, being at the games, being on the bench, etc. for them, and the atmosphere is unbelievable. And I think everyone says it's one of the best. And but no, it's good for the players. It's enjoyable, and they're good games to play in.
Yeah, I mean, you did score an absolute wonder goal away at Inverness, but then you went and said after it, it didn't count because we got beat anyway.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's one of those ones you look back now and you go, "Oh, it was a great goal." But I think initially, if you speak right after the game, you're disappointed that you've lost the game. I don't think there's anything better than scoring a worldie and it being the match winner, because I think that's the perfect scenario. So I think at the time it was disappointing, but yeah, I mean, I'll probably look back now and it's one of the best goals I've ever scored. So I'll take it, but it didn't really count for anything.
What was the thought process? Because usually you just lump the ball in the box, because that's just Scottish football down to a T. But you actually got the boy to pass the ball to you, and you just leveled it.
I thought. Do you know what? I was actually quite far out, and I think it was Ian Vigers that was standing over it, and I think he was going to put it in the box, and there wasn't anybody within decent distance from myself, and really as well, the way he's rolled it across, it wasn't a great angle to hit it from either. So I probably, if I tried it 100 times, I would never do that again. So I think that's what makes it special as well, that it's probably a once.
It ended up hitting a car on the bridge.
Well, exactly. That's exactly it. So, but again, it was enjoyable because it got us back in the game. So that was special at the time. But like I said, we lost the game, so not ideal in the end. But no, it was still a great experience, and it's still a goal that always stay with me forever.
Yeah, and of course another goal I want to talk to you about is the controversial goal you scored at Dens Park, the one that was judged to have bounced over the line. Did you know it crossed the line?
Of course it did. No, it was another one. It was a great hit. I caught it sweetly. I think it just sat up just before I struck it. So coming down off the bar, happily take it. And I think that time we were on a good run. So that kind of set us up and kept us going, and managed to get us up the league, and ended up finishing it in the top 6 that year. So that was great. And yeah, 2 good goals. I think I didn't score many. I didn't score many. So, and the ones I did score were pretty good in terms of, because I was never far enough up the park to score a tap in. So I had to shoot from distance.
Absolutely. So moving on now, you signed for Saturday's opposition, Motherwell, in 2013, and had a baptism of fire with a European tie against Kuba and Krasnodar. How did this challenge compare to anything else you'd faced in your career so far at that point?
It was different, obviously. I'd spoke to the manager, and my contract was coming to an end at Ross County, and I spoke to Stuart McCall and Kenny as well, and it was fitted in great, fitted in perfect with my personal life at the time. It just all married up, and it was perfect. And the manager was great, and I couldn't wait to get started. And then I think it was the day before the game, I was told I was doing a man marking job on is it Popov?
The Bulgarian boy.
And I'd never done anything like that in my life. So that was very alien to me, and I didn't do a good job, obviously, because I think he scored 2. So, that was strange, and that was hard. So not getting off to a good start was difficult, because obviously you sign for a new club, you want to make an impression. But it wasn't a great start for me. But it was still a great experience. One of the reasons you sign for the club, obviously the manager wants you, but the chance to play in the European competition, and so it was a good experience. But in terms of, not in terms of my performance, but the overall aspect of it.
Now, when you had a team coming across that had so many players that were on probably tens and twenties of thousands of pounds, because that's what the Russian league's like, and of course they had Jibril Cisse as well at the time.
Yeah.
So it was always going to be a difficult task. So
it was, yeah, but I think the away tie we actually played quite well, and I think
we missed a penalty. I'm pretty sure
missed a penalty. Yeah, missed a penalty over there, and we'd done quite well. And so I think frustrating because, again, I don't think we actually played well as a team the first leg. You know, take my performance out of it, I was poor, but I don't think we got started really, and it was frustrating. You know, but like I say, overall, a good experience and one I certainly learned from.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, of course, you only managed to play about 20 odd games for Motherwell due to injury, which is, of course, frustrating from yourself. But moving on, at the end of your contract, you came up to the team you're at now, Formartine United. How did that come about? Because like you usually see teams leave teams in the top flight, maybe go to another team such as St Mirren or St Johnstone, or maybe drop down a division. But you went back to Aberdeenshire.
Yeah, I think. Well, obviously Stuart McCollum moved on. Ian Barraclough had come in as manager, and I'd been out for pretty close to 18 months with injuries on and off, and very frustrating time for me. Like I say, it was difficult. Again, it's a part that people don't see behind the scenes, how hard it is. There was stuff going on in my personal life that wasn't great, and so it was a tough time for me. And I think that summer my contract was up, and I wasn't expecting it to get renewed because, like I say, there was a new manager. He hadn't seen me play, so you know, at a team like Motherwell, you can't afford to have people on the wage bill that, you know, you're hoping they do a job for you. You need to know that people you can rely on. And looking at myself, I wouldn't have offered myself a new deal. So I knew it was coming, and I spoke to my agent at the time, and there was a couple of clubs kind of wanted me to go and do pre-season with them, just to see how I got on. Obviously, my injury record wasn't great, so I came back to Aberdeen for the summer just to see my family and stuff, and I was enjoying being back. You know, I moved away at 16, all right, only to Glasgow and then Inverness, but I was enjoying being back in Aberdeen, and I got an opportunity of a job. Well, somebody spoke to me about, you know, what was I doing with my football, and there was a job there for me if I wanted it. And so I sat and thought about it, and I thought, you know, if I go on trial, do pre-season with a St Mirren or somebody like you're saying, just for talking's sake, and I break down, then where does that leave me? I've not got a club and stuff like that, whereas I've got a job opportunity, and I thought, do I start thinking about the next stage of my life? Which was hard, don't get me wrong, it wasn't easy. And then I just thought maybe playing part-time would help me in terms of my injuries. You're not on a training ground every day. So though there was a lot to think about, but I think moving back to Aberdeen was a big thing for me. And my dad knew, my dad was involved in the Highland League for years and years, and he knew one of the coaches at Formartine, and just by chance he was speaking to him, and he'd said I was at home and thinking about sort of retiring from full-time football, and so he spoke to the Formartine manager and sort of chucked my name in if I would be interested in signing for them. So I thought I'd give it a go. There was no pressure. If my injury flared up, then so be it. It wasn't the be all and end all, but if it didn't, I could get back to trying to enjoy my football, and that's what happened.
That's absolutely brilliant then. I've got a few more questions before we wrap up today. So we'll go into them quickly. If there was one rule in football that you could change, what would it be?
Well, obviously the one at the moment's the VAR thing at the moment. That's the one everyone talks about. I am against that, to be honest. I think they said it would take away all the sort of questions asked, but it's caused more problems than they hope would solve. So I think that's the one thing. I think the goal line technology is a good one. It's certainly worked, but the VAR thing for sure. And you could argue it's we don't deal with it up here, which is fine. But I think the frustrations when you're watching the Premiership and that some of the decisions are baffling.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What is your most valuable item of memorabilia over your career?
Probably my debut shirt for Celtic, just purely for the fact it's my first professional game. I think that's the one that kind of you've got medals. Don't get me wrong, but I think you set out as a young boy to play football and make it and play in the Premier League and so I managed to do that. So I think that's probably the one thing that I probably hold most.
Yeah, for me, it's a signed James McFadden artwork. It says to Gogsy, happy 18th, best wishes. I'm
not surprised.
That's from.
That's a good one.
I show it to everyone when I get to the podcast.
Quite right. Yeah, he's a great lad and great player, but playing alongside him and just he's such a top lad as well. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think it's what you can always ask.
Absolutely. Players, but of course, because he came back when we were wearing this shirt.
Yeah, that's right.
That season, I particularly remember his performance when we beat Hearts 4-1. He got 3 assists and a goal.
Yeah. No, I mean, you could argue he was maybe coming to the end when he came back. But I remember playing against him when he was in youth team, etc., years and years ago, and you always knew he was going to be a top player, and he had a great career. A couple of injuries which didn't help, but no, Alexi's top guy, and but nothing but good things to say about him.
So you have to make a match day playlist, but you can only choose 3 artists. Who's in it?
Oasis, Stone Roses.
Oh, aye.
It's difficult.
It's the third one that always gets.
Is this to go on the tannoy, or is this for my own listening pleasure?
A bit of
because then that changes it. You don't want to listen to anything too. The third one's tough.
You're not a Sugar Babes guy, are you?
No. It just depends. It depends. I went through stages. I think at one time at Ross County, it would be like sort of like dance music. It was always on the change room, and I think sort of my younger days, I think it's Celtic. It was kind of a bit of Oasis and stuff. So it's been a mix. I can't even think what it was when I was at Motherwell. I wasn't in the change room that often. The third one's difficult. I don't know. I'll just go with 2. I'll go with the 2.
That's absolutely fair enough. So you're an indie fan?
Aye. Yeah, I would say so.
Fair game.
Don't get me wrong. I like all the classics and older music, and I am in a lot of 80s stuff. I must admit, it's shameful, but I am. But yeah, I like a bit of the indie stuff.
Fantastic. If you could make a 5-a-side team up of players you've played alongside, who's in it?
Oh wow. That's one you put on the spot, is it? Goalkeeper, I'll go David Marshall.
Oh, of course.
Just purely, I would. I mean, Arthur Boric was something ridiculous, but realistically, I played a couple of games with him. But in training, he was unbelievable. But Marsh was different class, and shown that obviously lately with Scotland. So no, he would be in there. Defender, we'll go with. It's difficult. I find these things difficult. I'm not just avoiding it, but I do find it difficult being asked sort of best 11s and stuff. And I could pick 11 players that I played with at Celtic, because let's be honest, there was top players. But I tended to go with boys I played with at Ross County, because that was probably the main part of my career at that. But I mean, John Kennedy would be in there. Such a shame his career was cut short, because he would have certainly gone right to the very top. I think everyone who's played with him, I'll tell you the same. So
because he got injured pretty young, didn't he?
Yeah, I think 21, Scotland debut. So he was different class. I'll stick to Motherwell. I'll stay with Motherwell, boys, since we're on that. Keith Lasley.
Yeah.
I think everyone, again, you know what, Laz is one of these boys. I always knew he was a good player, but it's not until you play with him or train with him that I realised how good he was.
He's a type like such as Andy Considine. Everyone slated him until he made a good impression for Scotland.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, I think Laz, a lot of opposition teams don't like him because he puts his foot in.
He's booked all the time.
Yeah, and he does what he has to do for his team to win the game. But I think ultimately, unbelievable captain. Great guy. But like I say, you know these guys from playing against them, how good they are. But it wasn't until actually played alongside him and trained with him that I realised how good he was, and a good professional, and just a top man. I'll go Ivan Sproul.
Oh,
maybe not a great five-a-side player, but in terms of what playing with him, I thought he was different class. And apparently he'd lost a yard of pace when he signed for us at Ross County, so I'd hate to have seen him when he was in full flight.
Wait, in my first season as a football fan, I live in Fife, so I had to pretty much commute to Motherwell whenever I was going. And one of the first games I was in tears at was because of Ivan Sproul. We got beat 6-1 at home to Hibs. And Scott Brown, Ivan Sproul had a field day against us, and I think Stephen McGarry scored a late consolation for us.
Okay, yeah.
We were absolutely brutal that day.
No, I think playing alongside him was only a short time. It was 6 months, but he's certainly part of me credits him with my move to Motherwell, because he transformed my season that year, and off the back of that I got a move. So no, he's definitely a top player, and love playing alongside him. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll have to put my mate in, won't I, Michael Gardine, or he wouldn't forgive me. But a very underrated player, I think, in terms of the media attention that comes his way. But if you ask MD that's played with him, I think they'll all say the same. Absolute rocket in the changing rooms. He's always up to something. But on the park, he's different class, and despite what comes across, he is very professional in what he does, and to play the number of games he has just shows that. So he wouldn't forgive me if I didn't put him in my team. But
he's been
tough one.
He's been pretty much part of that spiritual journey Ross County have had from basically the third tier all the way up as well, hasn't he?
He has, and I think he's been back about 4 times. I think he's left and gone back, and it just shows you. But I mean, I've always said it, certain players, it just works for them at certain clubs, and I think Ross County are obviously the club for him. He's been superb for them, and I think he's now got record appearance holder, record goal scorer. So he's won trophies with him. So I think, undoubtedly go down as a Ross County legend, that's for sure. But I think, like I say, MD that's played with him knows his qualities, but he maybe doesn't get sort of the respect from other quarters that he maybe deserves. But it's a difficult one. Five-a-sides is a tough one, because I've played with some unbelievable players, and Ian Vigurs I rate very highly. Again, I know some of the Motherwell fans might disagree. He didn't maybe have the best of times there either, but
but there's no doubt about his ability. Like that volley he scored against Newcastle United in the friendly, I'll never forget.
Yeah. No, he's got, and that's the thing, he's got that in his locker. I think he was very unlucky at Motherwell. But I mean, the second season obviously didn't go great, and then Stuart left obviously, and Ian Barraclough came in. But no, in terms of ability, again, speak to the Motherwell players at the time, and they'll tell you, you know, the ability was there. It just didn't maybe click for him fully on the park. And I think with Vags, he's the type, he would take the ball in any situation. He would never hide. And that he maybe gave it away more than some, but he always wanted the ball. He never hid. So in terms of ability, yeah, again, it can be a loose cannon. Gets booked a lot.
Yes.
But no, again, a talented player.
Final question is, picture the scene. You're in the pick and mix aisle of a sweet shop and can only choose 3 sweets. What do you put in your bag?
It's the best aisle ever. Okay, so I don't know. It's difficult. There's these things called rhubarb and custards. I don't know the little. Oh,
I'm aware of those. Yes,
they are just the dream. Then, what else do I like?
Whenever I saw someone eating a rhubarb and custard, I just thought of the theme of the show, rhubarb and custard.
I just think that honestly, they're amazing. I could. Oh, that's my problem. I eat too many pick and mix, but the happy smiley things, they're like wine gums, but little smileys. I don't know if you've.
All right, I'm not sure. Must be just a Highland thing.
Nah. We'll go with. I like the giant straws. Must admit, yes, I like giant straws. They're a firm favourite, and I like a strawberry bonbon. Must admit that.
They're my favourite.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely agree that.
Yeah, pick and mix is definitely a weakness of mine. So
yes.
Everything goes in the bag.
All right, so
great question. I like that question.
Yeah. So I've asked you some questions. Do you have anything to ask me?
Who's your favourite all-time Motherwell player?
Oh, it's got to be Faddy. I got the chance to interview him a few seasons back when I was like 16 at the time. I was shaking, and the guy was just top class. I mean, he was injured, so there was no threat of him making the dressing room after half one. So I was fine. But the fact I just got to interview him was absolutely top notch. Scott McDonald was also a favourite of mine. He gave me 3 hours to do a podcast over lockdown because he's in Australia right now. But he was absolutely amazing as well. I don't think he was at Celtic when you were.
He signed, was it the summer I left? But he was at Motherwell for 6 months when I was there. No, Scott is a great lad. He comes across as a grumpy sod on the park and such like, but no, he's similar to Faddy, great lad, and he's got a lot of time for everyone, and can see why he's a favourite with the Motherwell fans.
I mean, one time when my uncle was Mark Bonas, who you'll have known from the club. He said Scott McDonald made the biggest noise at a medical he's ever heard.
No, he's great lad, and he's doing well, but back out in Australia, so it's good to see. Best away day. I have to say Ross County. Ross County is a great away day. I mean, now I'm legal to drink. All you have to do is get on the train, get there for 11 o'clock, have a few drinks, and then before you know it, you're sauntering up to the ground at 3:05. It's great. Yeah, I always think that because you used to hear when obviously Ross County and Inverness were getting into the Premier League, and people say, "Oh, it's a hell of a journey to get up there and stuff." And part of me thought, if you're a fan, it's a great journey because, all right, it's a few hours, but it's a few hours, like you say, drinking time and enjoying yourself. And then if you win, it's a great journey back down the road, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we played them on Boxing Day in 2019, and we were 1-0 down at half time, and they got a man sent off. I can't remember who it was. And then we scored in the 81st, Ross McKeever. And Declan Gallagher scored in the 90th minute, and it was pandemonium, and we were just jumping all the way back there. It was great. Just like it's a bastard going to the Highland League or the Highland teams when you get beat, because I've seen us get beat up there 3-0 before, and it's just a hellish journey. But when we win, it's all the more rewarding.
Yeah. No, I would have thought that as well, and like when I was at Motherwell, I enjoyed going back up there, and no, it's good. And who's the best? Apart from Faddy, who's the best you've had on here?
On here, I've had a few decent guys. I've been diversifying a wee bit. I've had quite a few people from the media, like Luke Shanley, Rory Hamilton, Ian Crocker, Eric Ray. So some of the footballers I've had, obviously Faddy, Skippy, Marvin Bartley was great to have on as well.
He's a good lad, Marvin. I done my B license with him. He's top man.
Yeah,
really good guy.
So I've been very fortunate. Lockdown's helped me a bit in terms of the YouTube stuff, because we're nearly at 10,000 subscribers now as well for it. So it's going well. But I'd like to thank you very much for your time. I'm pretty sure you're
no worries at all.
I'm pretty sure this is the busiest week of your season.
It's been fine. It's good. It's something to look forward to, and I really am, and it's nice. And like I say, it's given the club a bit of exposure, which is great.
Yeah, and I've noticed you've got a wine rack behind you. Hopefully, you're not going to be tucking into that on Saturday night.
I hope I am.
Aye, but at least you've always got the Easter eggs as well.
Well, exactly. Win, lose or draw, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but anyway, guys, thank you very much for coming on and enjoying tonight's podcast with Paul Lawson, and hopefully he doesn't have too much of a good time on Saturday. And thank you very much for watching, guys. I've been your host, Goggs89. Take care.